Good afternoon everybody. I am Dr. Ravi Thappar and I will be just discussing on the various MR sequences going beyond T1 and T2. So MR provides us with a whole platter of sequences which can be used to interrogate the spine and get the best possible clinical information in each case, and how we choose that depends on the radiologist. T1 and T2 are the basic workhorse sequences in any spine study. So on T1 the CSF filled thecal sac is dark and it is bright on the T2 weighted images. So even here you can see on the axial images the CSF filled thecal sac is dark on T1 and it is bright on T2 with the nerve roots very well seen, and the fat remains bright on both T1 and T2 weighted images. The other sequence that we do is the myelography sequence, which gives us an image that is quite similar to the conventional myelograms that we used to do earlier. Essentially it is a very thick slab heavily T2 weighted sequence. So what happens is that only the CSF filled thecal sac is seen in the AP and lateral projections and everything else becomes suppressed. So it immediately gives you in single image the configuration of the thecal sac and also any cutoff if there. Then moving on to one of the most important sequences in a spine study, that is the stir sequence or the T2 fat sat sequence. Essentially we have to understand that this is a T2 weighted image, but what we do is we provide an extra inversion pulse which suppresses all the normal fat. So now what happens is that the normal fat is suppressed, and if in the vertebral body or if in the bone marrow there is any lesion, any pathology or any edema, it will have higher water content, and because it's a T2 weighted image it will appear brighter in the background of the normal suppressed fat. So it really stands out and becomes very conspicuous. Like you can here see the spondylodiscitis, the bright signal in the disc and in the adjoining vertebral marrow. Even here you can see a erosive spondylitis with the adjoining marrow edema, while the other vertebral bodies are all dark. Here you can see multiple lesions in the marrow, in the pelvis as well as the spine, and liver lesions as well indicating metastasis. And here you can appreciate that this is an acute compression fracture with marrow edema and a fluid cleft, while here there is an old compression fracture which does not have marrow edema. So this is clearly the cause of the patient's pain. So what STIR does is it picks up all the hot spots which are showing the sites of active disease or active marrow edema, quite similar to what a nuclear medicine scan like a PET scan does, and therefore in that way it is a form of functional imaging. Moving to the T1 fat sat post contrast sequence, it's a very similar to STIR in the sense that it is again a fat saturated T1 sequence, and when we give contrast the abnormality enhances against the background of the suppressed fat and it becomes very conspicuous. So you can see here it's a post-operative spondylodiscitis with abnormal enhancement in the disc and the vertebrae, and here you can see an enhancing intradural extramedullary tumor which becomes very obvious on this sequence. So this is typically used for post-operative patients and in patients with tumors and infections. Now in some scenarios we use a T1 fat sat plane sequence. So I'll tell you when. So this is a T2 weighted image. You are seeing a bright lesion in the cord here, and the lesion is bright on T1 as well. Now very few things are bright on T1. You have to think of fat and blood. So what we do is we do a T1 fat saturated sequence. So if the lesion loses the signal, it becomes suppressed like the remaining normal fat. That means the lesion is a fatty lesion, so it's a lipoma. If it does not become suppressed, that means it is likely to be blood. So this helps to differentiate fat versus blood. Moving to the GRE or the gradient recall echo sequence. Now again look at this case. There are some bright areas here on the T1. They are dark on T2, they look to be intradural extramedullary, and this is the T1 fat sat sequence. What happens? Those areas they remain bright. That means they are not getting suppressed like the normal fat, so that means they are not fat, it is likely to be blood. And to confirm blood, gradient echo is a very good sequence because blood appears markedly dark, very hypointense on the GRE sequence. You can see all this. This is blood. Even here now you can appreciate a blood CSF level in the dependent thecal sac. Another thing which gradient is very good at is picking up calcifications and ossifications. So in the cervical spine, when there is OPLL, you can see how gradient picks up that thickened ossified ligament very well, almost replicating the CT image of the same patient. So this is useful for blood calcifications and ossifications. Moving to MARS or the metal artifact reduction sequence, which is a new addition in the armatorium. This is a routine T2 weighted fast spin echo showing a lot of artifacts. You are not getting any information, and these are the MARS T1 and MARS STIR sequences. You can now at least get some information about the thecal sac, about the canal dimension. Here you can see there is the os odontarium and that is the anterior arch. Even here you can get an idea about that there is no active cord compression now. You still can't really evaluate the intrinsic signal of the cord because of the artifacts, but at least you are getting much better information than what you had before. DWI and DTI, just like in the brain, DWI is used for picking up acute infarctions and acute demyelinations in the cord. So here you can see that in a case of multiple sclerosis, 2 cord lesions, but on the DWI only the upper one is showing restricted diffusion, so that's an acute demyelination, while this will probably be a chronic demyelination. On DTI you can evaluate the integrity of the cord fiber tracts. This signal abnormality here corresponding with the, you see the green gets disrupted here, so there is some loss of integrity of the cord fiber tracts in this area. And also DWI is very useful to differentiate osteoporotic from metastatic compressions, because all metastasis being neoplasms will have restricted diffusion. When I say restricted diffusion, that is they are bright on DWI. So because of that, a metastatic compression fracture will have areas of restricted diffusion in it, which will not be there in a osteoporotic compression. Moving on to angiography, we can do a good dynamic multiphasic contrast enhanced MR angiography of the spine nowadays with good resolution. So in this case of spinal dural AV fistula, you can on the routine imaging just see these engorged spiral veins with venocongestive cord edema. And when we do this contrast enhanced angio, you can see that actually the nidus is lower down, then there is this prominent draining vein which is then supplying the engorged spiral veins. And just I am about to finish. And this is another different case where there is a spinal cord AVM and you can see the draining vein again. So what this angio does is it gives a roadmap to the interventional radiologist, who then can go in and cannulate the specific vessel and directly get on with the therapeutic embolization. He does not have to waste time doing diagnostic angiograms. So that shortens the table time and the contrast requirement. Thank you.